This is Megaphone from Medvale Media. I'm Dave Self. This is where we hand the megaphone to healthcare leaders to share their thoughts, their perspectives, and the occasional rant about the increasingly dynamic world of healthcare. And today, we welcome a new resident of Medvale, Chris Bowen, founder and chief information security officer of ClearData. He has deep experience in IT, AI, and a bunch of other acronyms we'll get to along the way. In addition, he's a nationally sought after speaker and contributor to Forbes magazine on the topic of artificial intelligence. Chris, welcome to Megaphone.
The privilege to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Chris, you have a rather surprising start to your career as a top tier technologist. Let's start with your journey from way back to today.
You mean the way back?
Let's go back. I don't know, maybe college days, say, and
College
start
days.
there with how you, you know,
Yeah. Well, I'm trying. It's easier to remember a few years ago, but I do remember. Yeah. So my college career was a little different than most. I decided to volunteer for a gubernatorial race and helped a guy run for governor in the state of Utah. He happened to win. I jumped back to ASU and decided to take up another congressional race that was brewing. This was around 1992, believe it or not.
Interesting times in 1992, wasn't it?
It was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating. So, five-way primary, we won that, and then eventually won the general election, and happened to be the 104th Congress where Newt Gingrich was able to take the gavel from Dick Gephardt, and I got to be in the room for that. I watched that.
Wow.
It was crazy,
Wow.
crazy stuff. So yeah, I had a little bit of political experience, then realized that the house salary for a staffer was really not that much. So I became a lobbyist for the Donor Network of Arizona. I wrote a piece of legislation to make it easier to donate organs. And as I was going, as I was working through the political world, I got exposed to healthcare policy. And then in the donor network world, I was really face to face with those who had the juxtaposition of receiving an organ in the same time frame or the same day as someone who had just passed away. So very poignant experience for me and brought healthcare really front and center to my world.
And how old were you at this point?
I had no business doing any of this stuff, Dave. I was too young.
But that makes it more interesting too. So a
I,
powerful time.
I think I was 23 when I won the first congressional race for a guy, put a guy there. And instead of rushing, I'm at ASU, I said, hey, I got to rush, do some fraternity stuff. But no, I realized after the first hour of rush that this is not for me. I had a congressional office to set up in Washington, D.C. So I had to jump on a plane and, my college days, I grew up way too fast.
Who was going to tap the keg, though? That's what I want to know. You're going through Russia. You have to go to DC. That leaves a bit of a gap there at the frat.
It, it did. Yes, it did. Now I've since made up for that day.
Okay, good man. Good man.
It's a fast, I call it the, Forrest Gump life that I've lived a bit. Yeah. So still work for the Speaker of the House in Arizona. Why I was in the room with it for an assassination attempt on a county supervisor once. That was crazy. Just some crazy stuff.
Good grief.
It's crazy stuff. Can't make it up, honestly.
No, no, you can't, but you should write it down. It'll make a great script.
I've got it written down.
Excellent.
And then I'll cap it off with my shining failure, which was debating Janet Napolitano the week after she'd returned from the Supreme Court arguing for education reform. And you can guess who won that debate. And it wasn't this guy.
No, it's part of the learning, personal growth opportunities, Chris.
Yeah, I had a lot of personal growth opportunities. Yeah.
So how did you make the jump to technology? I mean, it's interesting and you're young, and then suddenly you had some epiphany. What happened?
The Speaker of the House at the time in Arizona was the majority leader in the House. He kept getting kicked out of leadership because he couldn't figure out his finance records. He would just mess them up. So because of my experience, I took him under my wing and I said, "All right, we're going to clean you up. I'm going to take control of your treasury, and I'm going to manage all of your filings and all that stuff." And eventually, he became Speaker of the House. And at the time, I was working for Maricopa County. I was the chief of staff of the Board of Supervisors, and he asked me to come and join him in the House. And and I said, "Well, I'd love to do that. I have two conditions. Number one, I want you to pay for my grad school, and number two, I want to do some cool stuff technologically." Now, I had learned this during the '94 campaign. The internet was just coming out, if you recall.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and in fact, shortly after, when I became an aide to the speaker, he put me on a committee to help prevent these well-meaning people from putting all of the voter rolls out on the internet so that everybody could glean them. That was one of my first privacy roles in an official capacity. So I've always had this penchant for privacy, and I've always had a penchant for technology. And what the end result of that, Dave, is we built the uh, first of its kind internet broadcast system. You'd be appreciative of this, so that you could hear the proceedings going on within the house without leaving your house. The failure to that one was it ended up being the lobbyist lazy um, machine, because nobody would come down the lobby anymore. They would just sit and watch. And it's okay. Now my bill's coming up. I got to go take care of that. So
So you effectively created C-SPAN on the early internet.
yeah, for like $17,000. The Senate, on the other hand, they tried it and they did it for probably $90,000. So we did it on a budget. It was fun. It's good times back then.
And then you keep rolling forward. You're in politics. Why did you get out? Seems like you're sitting on top of the mountain there.
Well, if you remember Seinfeld, when Jerry Seinfeld said, "Hey, I'm out because I'm at the top
Yes.
of my game." Well, I lost a gubernatorial race by half a point to Janet Napolitano, and and that was
She
a
had
big.
your number, man. She took you down
She did.
verbally. It took you down in the polls. Good grief.
She was a tough opponent, but she was absolutely a great governor. She was classy and did the right stuff. So and she was a Democrat and I was a Republican, and we got along. So it was good. So then, I mean, I won't blabber too much here, Dave, because I know there's other things to cover. But eventually, I finished that gubernatorial race, went and worked for First Solar, and from there, uh, we sold everything we could make at First Solar. That was a Sam Walton Sam Walton's son had started that company, and it was great. We sold everything, and I got a check, and that's when I started my first company. Is when I got that severance check, and I thought, wow, what am I going to do with this? And I came up with a business idea. I was doing technology anyway, so I started building websites, and eventually became focused on healthcare technology, and started to build things like one of the first clinically integrated networks, something you have experience with doing, Dave. Started doing clinical trials, patient matching applications. One of my biggest customers at the time was Dignity Health. And in fact, they still are running some of my applications today. They shouldn't be, but they still are. And,
Hey, if
and,
it works, you don't mess with it.
and then at this point, it's a snowflake, and so nobody wants to touch it. But
Yeah.
it was good stuff. And then eventually I realized, hey, this healthcare thing. I did a lot of due diligence for the legal departments within Dignity Health, became a trusted advisor, and realized that nobody gave a darn about the data. They all wanted about the solutions. Let's deploy these solutions. But I realized the one thing that was missing from that equation was who's manning the store, on PHI. And so that's when I came up with the idea of creating a company that did nothing but focus on protecting patient data. And so we've been doing that now at ClearData since the very beginning. The tools have changed, the technology has changed and evolved, but that still is our core mission. And that's our core function in life, is to help all the rest of these healthcare organizations in the world. Literally, we've worked in many places in the world to help secure patient data, whether it's a provider, a payer, a life science company, a health tech company. We've done some incredibly innovative solutions in the space. And so then AI came along, and now we're focused on making sure that AI is truthful, and it's hallucination, minimization and governance and all the stuff that we got to think about as it relates to AI and how to make that safe.
Well, as we have observed during previous conversations here on Megaphone, AI has transcended being just buzzy and a phrase that people were trying to figure out how to use into a part of virtually all conversations. Name it. I mean, business, personal life, security, entertainment, sports, education, and importantly, in Medvale, healthcare. From your perspective, is there a best and highest use of artificial intelligence in healthcare? And by the way, I'm on a campaign to say artificial intelligence more and AI less. So I'll intermix it in this conversation so that we don't confuse people. But I'm really tired of hearing AI.
Can we say agentic?
We can. We can.
Okay. All right.
We can say LLM, we can say agentic, we can say physical. I mean,
All right.
the CEO of NVIDIA says the next frontier is physical. So anyway, back to the question. What is the best and highest use of artificial intelligence in healthcare from your perspective?
I mean, we've seen some great use cases. One of our customers, uh, Machinify, they are one of the first adopters of artificial intelligence in the cloud. We helped build them a solution leveraging certain AWS tools and other services, leveraging Bedrock and other types of tooling. What they do is claims adjudication for payers. So if you think about how long it takes you to get approval for a healthcare treatment, and the payer has to say, yeah, that's good, that's fine. Well, they took this massive amount of time in the past, but now it's like almost instantly they can adjudicate a claim and authorize the procedure. So now think about that as a person,
Sure.
a human being. I don't have to wait 3 weeks necessarily. Now there's other problems in healthcare that slow certain things down. But from a claims adjudication perspective, it was an amazing transformation. Other use cases, I mean, there's so many of them. Call centers. Call centers are now being used extensively. We're using artificial intelligence extensively. Even just when you're doing your Teams meetings, and the little note taker pops up, and sometimes when you're s- doing something sensitive, you have to figure out how to turn that off. But certainly, when you're done with your meeting, you don't have to sit there and remember what did Dave say. I know I had a deliverable. Hey Susie, can you help me remember what Dave said? I don't want to mess that up, right? So there's just so many different um, ways that you can use artificial intelligence, and things that we're seeing across Tennessee. A voracious appetite for artificial intelligence, and we're
Really?
using it all the time. One of the things that we do at ClearData, though, is we don't just say, "Hey, here, go for it." We actually write the prescription on how to use it, how to instantiate the services, which services to instantiate in which cloud, and then how to manage we actually manage the infrastructure, the cloud services underlying all of that, to make all of that work. And in some cases, some of our clients will say, we're not going to actually do anything until ClearData writes that compliance reference architecture so that we can follow the right directions. No pressure.
No, no pressure. That sounds like you're creating a paint by numbers picture for your clients. If they follow the instruction, they should stay within the guidelines that you are calling out as being acceptable use.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some cases they go extreme, like, hey, we're not going to do anything until ClearData gives us that here's your form. And in other cases, we have solution architects that jump in the trenches with our customers and helps them build it.
Let's have a lightning round. I'll give you a word or a phrase, and you respond from your perspective as it relates to AI, artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Risks.
Lots of them.
Okay, you win that one. Anything more specific?
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Risks. So you have risks of data that's not clean. You have risks of data that is duplicative. You have provenance risk. Provenance is where you're trying to figure out, where did this data come from? Did we take it from a data warehousing company, or did we take it from our ERP? Did we layer it up on and double it up?
Right.
Is the data representative of the universe that we're living in? So those kinds of risks, data
Well,
governance, AI governance, very, very much joined together if you want to do it correctly.
so two things. One, providence, and let's touch on that for a second with a question. And second, I want to come back around to some of the free floating anxiety that artificial intelligence is creating for C-suite players. And there's a lot. There's a lot of sleep being lost right now. But as it relates to providence, is that essentially finding the true source, or is it finding the original source? What is the what's the pathway to assuring that what you are either using or promoting is accurate?
I mean, it comes back to one of those tried and true principles, Dave. Of, do you remember the data lifecycle? We
Oh
would talk about,
yes.
creation, distribution, use, uh, uh, storage, distribution, and then eventually end of life, destruction, right? And so if you think about provenance, it's not only where it's coming from, but it's how it's been treated, or what's been done with it along that life cycle journey. And if you don't know that, and you're deciding to use that data set, just kind of crossing your fingers, hoping it's clean,
Sure.
it's pure. Well, unless you test that out, unless you kind of understand a chain of custody almost, you're taking a big chance on what you're doing. Now, in healthcare, that's obviously much more important and critical than in other uses, but the principles remain the same.
It really calls to mind the idea of what liability do you take on for cutting corners or not being diligent in the quality of the information you're either again using or promoting. When I say promoting, I'm thinking putting forward to a patient or a care provider or even someone adjudicating claims. I mean, you could stretch this out to the nth degree, and that idea of where does the liability end as an interesting twist in healthcare. If a care provider makes a decision partially informed by information from an artificial intelligence source, and they apply their own experience, but they're including this AI generated suggestion for therapy or a course of care, and something goes sideways. Where does the liability reside?
I think we're starting to see some of those cases bubble up a little bit. It may not necessarily be just in healthcare, but it's pervasive in some of the social platforms that we see today. I think I sent you an article a couple weeks ago where Meta and their executives signed off on having conversations with minors that were inappropriate
Right.
on purpose, not just to be fun and all, but to engage the younger audience. Well, I mean that was a blatant misuse of it. Um, in healthcare, you're going to see lawsuits when something goes wrong. It always happens, even when something goes incredibly right and something just happens to be off. You're still going to have lawsuits, but this is going to exacerbate some of those lawsuits and some of those challenges.
Another question that comes to mind in the same vein is, how long is the tail on the liability? Because something may not present itself when the person leaves the hospital, leaves the clinic, therapy is completed. It could hang out there a while. And there's right now not a precedent that I'm aware of. Or is that something of concern to you as you think about governance?
Oh, I absolutely think a lot about that, Dave. In fact, this one stems from the data protection side of my world, of my history, and that is, if we don't protect the sanctity of the medical record itself, if that changes, well, guess what the lifespan of a medical record is? It's not a 20-minute thing. It usually lasts around 10 years for you to get it back to where it should be. Now, if you think about medical mistakes, you think about liability, we think about something that happened to just, somebody did a write, an AI bot made a write in the wrong place. A write is, a command or something. I mean, it could be devastating. So it's very precise. It's very high risk. It's if you don't know exactly what you're doing with this in a high risk environment. When I say this, I mean artificial intelligence and how to use it and how to train it. Then you're setting yourself up for liability. Now, there's a way to address that, and that's with the AI governance piece, and that is to do the risk assessment on the LLM, the underlying cloud services, understand where your shadow AI is, understand the AI bill of materials, what makes that AI up. Is it just one LLM? Is it multiple? Or you have a tiny LLM validating the hallucinations of the big LLM? There's a lot of things that you have to think about to properly govern. Observability is another one. Where's your data flowing? How do you measure that? How do you monitor that? Those kinds of things.
You're making a great case for going back to paper. Say, I did comment about CEOs and the free floating anxiety, but it is a theme, not just here on Megaphone, but in conversations I have with people fairly frequently in the C suites, that the idea that there is something so powerful, so ungoverned, so usable, so available is both an exciting opportunity and also a significant risk for organizations. And you've touched on some of the things that may be thought of, but maybe people should be paying closer attention as well. It seems like the diligence aspect of knowing what you're using, its source, how you expect your people to be using it, are table stakes for success.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I agree that it's exciting and more of and like you, more of an abundance mindset. How amazing is this going to be? But there are reasons that California and other states have said, hey, we need to have a human in the loop on clinical decisions that happen.
There's a major disruption in some areas of healthcare too, using in air quotes artificial intelligence because it's only one piece of it. That in the future, a good deal of the delivery of care could actually be done without human intervention, direct human intervention, human
Yeah.
oversight maybe, but without direct human intervention.
I mean, if you look back on the old Star Trek days in the 60s, now I was a little younger, but I would watch the reruns. But boy,
I want a tricorder, by the way, if there's a tricorder. And at some point, I want to utter the phrase, "Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a mechanic."
magician. It's magician.
So back to the lightning round. What's the most misunderstood aspect of artificial intelligence from your perspective?
But it's correct all the time. Hey, this came out on my browser. It looks good. I mean, you've seen some lawsuits against lawyers who have relied upon citations that don't exist in a court of law. And what happens there is the lawyer is now liable for telling untruths to the judicial system. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I understand that the judges in those courtrooms are not mildly amused by the use of the technology when it comes to light that someone has actually had artificial intelligence write the brief, maybe didn't read it, and then used it in the course of the trial. Seems like something other than best practice.
Well, I mean, that's really a nice way to say that, Dave.
It is, but it's a family show.
I mean, if you remember the COVID days, remember that lawyer that was arguing before a judge and he was masked up as a cat? Remember that one?
Yes.
It's not quite the same, but similar, right? The judge
Oh,
was not amused.
he probably got off easier than the attorney that had the AI written brief. Um, we talked about some of the advantages. Is there a biggest advantage that you can see for deployment in our world of healthcare, specific to the clinical world?
I mean, there are so many use cases that are out there, and every one of them is varied. There are certain themes that are coming along. The data centers. The data centers. Wow, I um, what is that?
You just aged yourself, boy.
2005 called. They want their data centers back, right? But of course, there's a lot here in the Phoenix area, so we still use them. But so yeah, you've got the trends around the call centers. You've got the claims stuff. You've got if we think about making the physician or the care provider have a happier life,
Right.
let them turn on AI to record what's going on with consent, of course,
Certainly.
and and come up with a summarization of what the care plan should be before they leave the office. And that includes understanding what medications you're going to need, what kind of treatment you're going to want to have, how to comply with your treatment plan, and you know those kinds of things. A doctor, as you know, has to write. You just have to write that down. It would take them hours and hours after they've seen their last patient, and it would just wear them out, like grind them down.
Well, and depending on who you talk to, right? And as recently as this morning, I read a piece on one of the international pubs, online publications, that they feel at least in their research, that the average physician is spending somewhere around a day and a half of their work week, either scribing, transcribing, writing, editing. And we've discussed here before on Megaphone with other guests the idea that if you could lighten the load on the care provider and the care team, really, um, so that they're spending less time in the administrivia and more time patient facing, and they can shut it down at some point and have a life with their family instead of in clinic all day, go home, have a quick bite with your family, put the kids to bed, and then spend 3 hours going back trying to reconstruct what happened in your day for the record. That people might celebrate that, and there's a lot of good cases right now where those providers that are able to use some of the technology, like suggested answers, suggested pieces of the therapy course of therapy. They can use it or not, but it's suggested. So it's not a shortcut, but it's more of an augmentation.
I mean, 100%. I mean, you nailed it, Dave. If you can imagine the normal employee going home, having that 3 hour period of time where they have to work every night to document all that, why would you do that? You're not getting paid for that. Why would anybody do that?
Right.
Well, AI, artificial intelligence, can certainly have an amazing benefit for the quality of life of the care team.
Chris, what do you believe are maybe the most underused features of artificial intelligence, at least today? I mean, and most folks are dabbling in it. Um, Everybody uses Chat GPT as the catchphrase, regardless of whether they're using Claude or something else. But it's pretty ubiquitous right now. But what are some of the most underused features?
Well, I mean, bolstering your email grammar is probably one of the worst uses of it. I mean, it's great. Let's be honest with everybody. It's great, but so I think there's, if people aren't trained, Dave. Let's come back to training for a minute. I listen to this podcast. It's called Everyday AI, and every day they come up with pretty amazing stuff that is released, that is talked about. Um, you can make your own agents in your own browsers. Agentic browsers are now coming out. And what that means is while you're doing your job, Dave, your agentic agent is out doing the rest of your instructions without you even knowing it. And then it's like a nice happy puppy, bringing it and slapping it right onto the front pad, the front door pad, right? And saying, here it is. A lot of people aren't using that. Um, a lot of people who are smart are. For example, we use agentic AI to help us find healthcare providers, payers, health tech companies, et cetera, who need a solution that they may not know how to do. So we'll use that for our hunting uh, stuff. Um, I think, I learned this very recently. Another use case is when you need to figure out what your blast zone has been in the case of a data security incident.
Mhm.
Typically, you would have to go find a data house. They would do some of their normal algorithms and come up with some ideas on how to determine whether or not there's sensitive data in this massive block of data, this big data set. I mean, you can do that within hours now, for free, simply by using the right prompt engineering, using the right AI, using the right method, then you can actually make that happen very, very quickly. And think about that. You either pay for that data house hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you can figure it out using the methods that you have in your browser. It's crazy. It's-
It's crazy good the way you describe it.
yeah, yeah,
So I want to stick a pin in Everyday AI. Is that the name of the
yeah,
podcast?
yeah. It's you can listen to it on Spotify. It's a great resource to learn about
Okay.
it and stuff.
I'll be adding it to my podcast queue. So thanks for the heads up. Chris, when you gaze into your crystal ball for a moment, what are the most important AI driven changes coming our way, both near term and then really taking a look hard into the crystal ball in the future? What are the changes that we should be saying? Hey, I heard about this from Chris Bowen on Megaphone.
Uh, I mean, you're going to start to see increased use of agentic AI, which I briefly described it. But it's going to be able to be more autonomous. It's going to be able to do things for you that it's almost going to, in advance, know what you want to do based on pattern recognition. I'm a big pattern recognition kind of guy. Words mean nothing. The actions mean everything. And so AI is similar to that. And it's going to predict your preferences. It's going to remember your preferences, your statements, for better or for worse, and it's going to help you be a better human being. I think. I think the other thing is you're going to start to see the laptops of the world start to have their own agents on them with your agentic browsers. They're not going to be necessarily sitting in a data center in San Francisco. They're going to be right on your laptop.
I recently had a conversation over coffee with someone who was working before I arrived in the coffee shop with their um, well-known brand of personal laptop, and that's the company they happen to work for. And it had AI agents available and built in, and attempting, she was using it, but she was learning how powerful it really could be when I arrived. It was fascinating.
And think about that for a minute. You have so much power now in these small laptops. It just blows me away. Honestly, it's incredible. But
And
learning how to use those, how to use those browsers, how to contain the data. If you think back on the risk conversation that we had,
right.
think about, hey, if you had the wrong command, where's your data going to go? So there's going to be some new ways to address, the data flows and how to govern some of that for sure.
There's some themes that are popping out. Training.
Hmm.
You don't know what you don't know, so learn it.
Right.
Governance,
100%.
respect security, and really invest in the ability to assure that what is being used and produced and promoted, you can stand behind.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would
It's a whole
say,
list.
yeah, and I would say, Dave, and I sent you this early version of this article that's coming out next week in Forbes. AI governance is nothing without data governance. The two go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And that's what everybody has to remember.
And you live in the greater Phoenix Scottsdale metroplex of the great state of Arizona, I believe.
I
Uh,
do. And it's 104 today. I'm not happy about that.
oh, well, perfect. It's not 104 where I am.
I'm
Uh, and I'm very happy about that. Uh, we like to get some insider guidance from our guests, and Maria and I are compiling a very rich travel booklet to share with others. So, what is the must-do activity where you live when someone comes to visit, and what is a outstanding eatery that you like to frequent that you would recommend?
uh well, for sure, the fat ox. I mean, that's a classic.
The Fat Ox.
The
Okay.
fat ox. It's right on Lincoln. If you ever go to the Camelback Inn, it's just down the road from
Okay.
and for sure, Camelback Inn is another great place. If you need a place to stay, that's the place. Obviously, the sanctuary is beautiful. It's usually cheaper in the summertime. I don't know why, but uh, but there are some great places to frequent. I would say one of my favorite things to do, go up to Sedona, check it out. It's a 2-hour drive. It's a wonderful place. It's kind of magical. You'll come back with your hookah and your crystals or whatever.
Well, visited Sedona for the first time earlier this year and in February, and it really was spectacular scenery. Went for a long hike up to Devil's Bridge, I think they call it.
Yeah,
And it was absolutely stunning. Every time you turned a corner on the trail, was something new. So thank you. Chris, you get the last word. What message would you like to leave us with today?
it's the basics, guys. It's the basics. Think about the things you already know. Security risk assessments, well, they're just a little bit varied, but similar concepts. Think about data governance, similar concepts to data protection, but it's similar concepts. Think about visibility of your data, your observability. And I would also say, you don't have to do this alone. There are MSSPs and companies like mine that do this for our customers in a way that's safe, and secure, and resilient. So you don't have to hike Everest all by yourself.
Well, you're hitting on the theme that for the extra today. So, Chris, thank you so much. Welcome to Medvale, and we look forward to climbing that steep learning curve on artificial intelligence. Fortunately, we've got you as the climbing guide. So, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Dave.
That's all for this edition, but join us next time for Megaphone from Medvale Media. I'm Dave Self. Be well.